Still got about a minute. All right, I see 5 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting into order. And is there any public comment on the closed session agenda items? All right, seeing as there's none, we will recess to closed session. Reconvene here in open session. Would you please take the roll?
President Holt,
Present.
Vice President Wedge,
Present.
Clerk Brickler. Present. Trustee Ross. Present. Trustee Dowd.
Present.
Trustee Dowd, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Where did our flag go? Yeah, today.
Lost our flag. They were doing their flag, so.
Don't see it there.
Okay, well,
You have the
Okay.
picture?
That one up on stage.
Stacy, all right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for items A, C, and D, no action was taken in closed session. For item D, that is a roll call vote on case number 2023-03-23.
As clerk, I will do the roll call. Trustee Ross.
Would it? Go ahead. Which one is it? Yay?
Oh, sorry, this is from closed session, item B, student expulsion.
So then the
So-
yes vote would be,
Oh, thank you for clarifying. So, in this case, it is a yes vote or an aye vote to expel for the
Correct.
terms of the,
And sorry, clerk, I'm going to keep I'll try to remind us, please, everybody keep me on task too. The translators asked us to state our names when we start speaking.
all right. So Sarah Brickler, roll call vote for item 5B. I'm going to start with trustee Ross.
I've reclused myself from this decision.
Trustee Brickler, aye. Trustee Dowd,
I,
Vice President Wedge,
Aye.
and President Holt.
Aye. Okay. And item 6E, approval of the agenda.
I move that this is Sarah Brickler, and I move that we approve the agenda.
This is Greg Holt, and I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
And any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving to item 7, special recognitions. Sarah Brick, or Clerk Brickler, if you would please.
there's no attachment.
I'll go ahead and get that for you in just a moment.
Hi, this is Sarah Brickler, and thank you so much for your patience. As a trustee and a parent at Alta Vista for the last 4 years, I had requested the honor of being able to recognize our special recognitions for the 22-23 school year. Thank you so much for your patience while we pulled up the award. So I'd like to start first by honoring Mallory Buckman as our parent honoree. Can we start by giving her a round of applause? Mallory Buckman is one of our parents at Alta Vista Community Charter School. She is the president of our Parent Advisory Committee. She is also the president of the Bucks Booster Club, which is our parent-teacher club. Mallory is involved in every special event hosted by our Bucks Booster Club. She ensures that all of our events are extra special for our students. She is creative and all of our students just love her. Mallory also brought our culinary program back to life during the 21-22 school year, and she has kept it running for the 22-23 school year as well. Mallory is also a credentialed teacher. She also has her admin credential in case anyone's looking. And she has subbed for us on many occasions, including a long-term kindergarten assignment last year. She has donated countless hours to our school, supporting both students and staff. Mallory puts each and every child at the heart of her work, and our school is a better place because she is part of our Alta Vista family. All right. Sorry, she does everything in our school. She's really incredible, and I'm so grateful to volunteer alongside her. Next is Sarah Liebert, our teacher that we are recognizing for 22-23. Sarah Liebert is our second grade teacher at Alta Vista Community Charter School. She has been here for the past 10 years. Ms. Liebert is a veteran teacher who loves to bring project-based learning to her students. Her annual Market Day event is an annual Alta Vista tradition that all of our students, our families, and our staff look forward to year after year. Ms. Liebert is also a strong teacher leader. She mentors many other teachers and looks out for them. This is especially true of our new teachers. One staff member stated, "Sarah is like a mother to all of us teachers. She makes sure we are all taken care of and that we have everything we need." Ms. Liebert is collaborative with all staff members and proactively looks for solutions that are inclusive and equitable for students and staff alike. Thank you, Sarah, for making Alta Vista such a special place for our students to grow and learn. We're so incredibly grateful for you. And the entire board would love to get photos with all of our honorees. Is Misty Merida present? Okay, I will, I don't see her here. Nutrition Services, she is our classified honoree. She works in the Nutrition Services Department, and she serves our students daily for both breakfast and lunch at Alta Vista. Misty knows each and every student by name. She greets each one of them by name and with a smile at every meal. She even knows students' preferences for certain items and ensures that they all feel well cared for by remembering their favorite foods. Misty looks out for our staff members as well. For example, if you are a staff member and you order lunch from Misty, she ensures that you will have a grown-up meal like a chicken Caesar salad. Misty works collaboratively with all staff members to ensure that students' nutrition needs are met when we have special events and field trips. Thank you, Misty, for your dedication and commitment to Alta Vista Community Charter School and for placing all of us at the heart of your work. And next up, we have our student honoree, Ernesto Ramirez. Ernesto is one of our fifth grade students at Alta Vista Community Charter School. Ernesto is an incredibly respectful student to both his peers and to all staff members. He is a natural leader and is a valued member of his class and to the overall school community. Ernesto is currently serving as the vice president of our student council. Ernesto is a good friend to others, and he looks out for his classmates and others, especially on the playground. He has been seen mediating disputes and proactively coming up with creative solutions. Ernesto is a dedicated student and role model to others. Thank you, Ernesto, for contributing to our positive learning environment and overall school culture at Alta Vista Community Charter School. We wish you the best for the remainder of this year and for your future school endeavors. Give you a quick slide. Okay. Go ahead. Thank you so much. We're so incredibly grateful for you all, and we would love to get a group photo with you, please.
This is Greg Holt again, and I'm going to do my best to keep doing that. Thank you, Clerk Brickler, for the presentation. Thank you, Alta Vista community. And now, Principal Wilson.
Great. All righty. Did you want to pull up? Okay, thank you. What do you want me to do? No, here it is. All right. Good evening, President Holt, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Designee Lucci Garcia, staff and guests. My name is Diana Wilson. I'm the principal of Alta Vista, and it is my pleasure to be here tonight to give you an annual update on our school. There we go. All right. Okay. Oh, no. Thank you. All right. So tonight's presentation will include a review of our academic data, our learning environment, the programs that we offer, our staff, and our volunteers. So this first part is tied to strategic goal number 1. All students will meet or exceed state standards in an environment that provides high quality instruction. And this section includes our English language arts. To teach English language arts, we use Wonders ELA. We have daily reading intervention offered to all of our students TK5. We have a specialized reading program for students with IEP services. We have guided reading and small group instruction in every single classroom. To measure our growth, we use common assessments, STAR reading, standardized assessments, and of course, our CASP scores for state testing. This next slide, I am so excited to share with you. This is our reading data from the winter. So this data was taken in February. This includes all students at Alta Vista from TK through 5. We have 74.3% back in February, meeting or exceeding reading standards for their grade level. And then we have 8.9% of our students just right underneath that line of proficiency. So they are very, very close. And I know they'll get there by the end of the year. And then we have about 16% of our students working below grade level. And I want to shout out to them because even though they're below grade level, every single one of them is making growth towards grade level standards. So it's not always just about getting to meet the standard. It's about that growth each and every year. So I would love to be able to show you the end of the year pie later on this year. All right, this next slide is just as exciting. And I want to shout out to, we have Miss Maggie Clifford in the audience. Just going to wave at you. Okay. This next slide is her intervention data for her students. The blue is their baseline score and the red is how much growth they have made with reading intervention. We use some funds at Alta Vista through our LCAP to pay for a dedicated reading intervention teacher. We also used funds from one of our COVID buckets to purchase specialized curriculum that focuses on phonics, phonemic awareness, skills for students. So she is using that program. And as you can see, their growth is amazing. We are really, really proud of that program. And again, we can't wait to have that end of the year data. This is data from February. That intervention model is where, you know, kids that are below grade level, they go into intervention. And ideally in a regular, you know, school year, you come in and out of intervention, or you go to not grade level, you go into intervention for a little while, and then you don't need it anymore. So that is the intention. And Maggie's truly doing a fabulous job. All right. So next we have strategic plan goal number 2 and number 7. Number 2 is our PBIS and number 7 is students making good decisions. We will be qualifying for the gold level of recognition for the 22-23 school year for our PBIS implementation this year. All right, and for that program, we have our super bucks where students are recognized for all the wonderful things they do when no one's looking or when they think no one's looking. They go to the student store, which is run monthly. They love it. Even our 5th graders love our student store. We have bi-weekly assemblies. We have our wellness center. Our wellness center clinician, Jill Bradford, is our check-in, check-out coordinator for PBIS, and she is a big part of our success in the program. We have our student council. This year, I get compliments all the time from visitors of our school of how warm and welcoming our environment is at Alta Vista. And we definitely live by the phrase by name, by need. Everyone gets what they need at Alta Vista, and that we know and celebrate each and every child. These are a bunch of pictures I wanted to share with you. The top upper left is PCOE. That is us for our silver award a few months ago. Those next 3 pictures are our students being recognized at our Friday assembly for having their super bucks pulled. They get to go to the office to get a prize, which is a book. And then those bottom left side are our student council being sworn in, gives kids that leadership opportunity in order to foster awesome behavior and foster those leadership skills. And then the bottom 2 pictures are our student store in action. Randy, our parent volunteer, he comes each and every month, so he's awesome. All right, so next is goal number 3, our math. Students will meet or exceed state standards at every grade level. This is, again, our math results from February. 72.4% of our students are meeting or exceeding grade level standards. And then 10% are flying right under the line of proficiency. They're almost there. And then 17% are slightly below grade level. However, they are all making growth. We have a math intervention teacher, I'm sorry, a math intervention paraprofessional now, paid for by our Learning and Recovery block grant. This is Senora Weeks. We offer Spanish at Alta Vista, tied to strategic goal number 15, world languages. This is Senora Weeks teaching 1st grade. That is the audio song you were seeing there in the left-hand side. And this is just one of her bulletin boards. She uses an immersion curriculum, not dual immersion, but immersion in that Spanish is taught mostly in Spanish. And it's so funny, every year the kids get frustrated, right? Because that's hard, right? Going into a classroom where no one's speaking English to you. But before long, they're all singing the songs and they're all having conversations with each other. So celebration for Spanish. There we go. All right, next is strategic plan goal number 17, extracurricular activities, which I know culinary is not quite extracurricular because it happens during the school day. However, it is one of the highlights of Alta Vista. This is the day we made broccoli bites, the broccolis from our garden, and the kids, as you can see by their faces, had a wonderful time making this treat. We had broccoli bites all over the campus for the whole week. And this is our garden and our orchard. And this is all a little sample of the produce that that came from those places, all financed by our Bucks Booster Club, all volunteers. All right, so this was hard. Strategic goal plan number 4 to get my whole staff on this slide. So there they all are. Goal number 4, recruit, hire, train, and retain highly qualified staff who are committed, collaborative, caring, and focused on student success. And I just have to say, they are all just such quality people and that we all come together to build this very warm community and work for a common purpose. You know, I just can't say enough positive things about them. So that's our wall in the office with everyone there. And then below, that's our dance. St. Patrick's Day, and I think that's Market Day with Jill and Cher. So they are a wonderful group of people. Our volunteers, goal number 11. So Alta Vista has 54 volunteers cleared to volunteer on campus. 50 of them volunteer on a regular basis. So we have plenty of help. And they are wonderful. They do all of our extracurricular events. These pictures are from our chili cook-off, Valentine's dance, and Market Day. And then the one in the middle with Miss Casbear is our Thanksgiving feast. We put on a feast this year with our culinary program. All grade levels made a dish, and we all gathered together and had a wonderful time. And that is all for tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And thank you.
This is Jamie, trustee Ross, and I just wanted to say that that reading intervention was so impressive. And I've heard the students talk about how excited they are to read, and I've never really heard that before. So I just wanted to thank you again and congratulate you all on all your success. Thank you.
Would you remind us, sorry, this is Sarah Brickler. We're supposed to be stating our names before we speak every time. Which curriculum or which curricula are being used?
Diana Wilson, Sunday is being used for our general education students that are in intervention. And I completely forgot to add that we also purchased the Barton program, which is used for our students receiving IEP services who have reading as one of their goals who are below grade level. And it has a high level of success here. I forgot to put it in, but that is also going really, really well.
Great. So both of those were part of the reading intervention results that you shared? Or is that more
Not
of a-
the
that's more
Barton.
Sunday?
I made the graph. I just forgot to put it in the slide. So I'll have to I can get that to you at a later time, but they are also experiencing a high level of growth with Barton.
Great.
Barton is designed for students with dyslexia or reading difficulties.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Greg Holt again. Moving on to item 9, and that is public comment for anything not on the agenda tonight.
Catherine Gonzalez.
And who's monitoring the time? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Auburn Union School District Board. My name is Catherine Gonzalez. I am a local for pretty much my whole life. I own 2 businesses in town. I went to E.B. Kane, and I am on the 2023 Leadership Auburn class. I'd like to thank you for, first of all, giving us the opportunity to beautify E.B. Kane. For our class project, we're working on including the following individual projects for which we are collaborating with local groups and individuals in town. First, we're working with Master Gardeners of Auburn and the E.B. Kane Science Department to create a sustainable garden for the students to plant, grow, work, and see the beauty of growing their own plants and vegetables. We're also clearing up the existing planter areas, and we will be bringing in cardboard and chips to help with weed control. We are also contracted with an artist to paint a mural on your newly painted walls. And we're also working with the Evie Kane kids to paint the additional hallways, add color, beauty, and some flair. So it looks pretty. Pickleball is also one of the things on our list. We've partnered with a longtime Auburn local who may have actually gone here too. He has agreed to donate paint, trucks, sprayers, and we've also secured funds to paint 4 pickleball courts on the campus. We haven't determined where those are going to go yet, but as soon as we do, we're ready to go and ready to paint. In addition, we're raising money to help with the installation of the track, water fountains, and the base for the turf and track to be installed on. We're working on the particulars now, and we will keep you updated as the process continues. We were wondering, though, if at some point we could get clarification from the board, because we know we won't be able to do this before our time is finished, about where the money that we raise will go if we turn it over to the district, and how it will be earmarked to go directly to the field, the track, and the water fountains. We're also in the process of working on scheduling some work days. We're hoping for May 20th and June 7th from 8 to 4. Once it's solidified, we're hoping that we can get volunteers, because as we know, many hands make light work. And we of course want to welcome any extra hands with open arms, but maybe they could bring gloves, paintbrushes, rakes, shovels, trowels, and any other of their favorite gardening tools to help us do the gardening projects that we're looking at doing. To help with the funding, we have a fundraiser coming up on May 25th from 3 to 5, doors open at 2 at the generously donated Oddfellows Auburn Lodge number 7 across from City Hall. The following will be performing is Jim Kepfer's Auburn Winds, the Evie Kane Middle Schoolers. I'm going to talk really fast. And the Evie Kane Dancers. And last but certainly not least, J. Ross Borelli performing, and she may have a special guest who does a duet with her. So we hope folks will come, donate, dance, enjoy, volunteer for our cleanup and paint days, and help get the job done. Thank you guys for your time, and please visit our Facebook page at Auburn Leadership Class of 2023 if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This is Sarah Brickler. I know that we can't engage with the public commenters, but I was wondering if there's some way that we could, as a board, see what we could do to support this effort, and to, I feel very grateful that Leadership Auburn has selected one of our schools as a site for all of these improvements.
This is Greg Holt. I think I saw everybody up here write a note at that point. So. And is there additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment? Okay. All right, moving to item 10, AUTA. You're up first with any reports or comments.
Sarah Liebert, AUTA President. Good evening, President Holt, trustees, and Superintendent Designee Lucci Garcia. We are in an unprecedented time with 2 school closures and a consolidation. I thought I would take this opportunity to go back and look up some information for you. Did you know that the district vision includes these statements? The Board of Trustees believes that a clearly stated purpose and direction for the district provide the foundation for continuous improvement and accountability. It also states, the vision shall recognize the unique role of students, parents, guardians, staff, and community members in contributing to a high-quality education for all students. I hope you take the opportunity to frequently visit all of our school sites, talk with students, talk with families, talk with staff during your term as board members. While reviewing the philosophy of the district, I picked a few key points that I thought might need some reviewing and thought might be helpful in moving forward. Number 14, a common set of norms and protocols is crucial for effective governance. Number 15, communication, trust, respect, collaboration, and teamwork strengthen the relationship among board members. and the superintendent, and contribute to the effectiveness of the governance team. Number 17, two-way communication with all stakeholders is essential for establishing support and shared goals, both within the district and the surrounding community. And number 20, responsibility of the district programs and operation is shared by the entire educational community, but the ultimate accountability rests with the school board as the basic embodiment of the representative government. I hope these points give you a few thoughts to ponder and reflect upon. Respectfully, Sarah Liebert, AUTA President.
Thank you. I think you just turn it off.
Okay. Our custodian department's in serious need. We're severely understaffed. We need to retain our current custodial staff and lessen the amount of injuries on the job. Our schools and grounds are not being taken care of as they should, and this is due to not enough staffing. This is an important time for our schools to look their best and most presentable due to open house at all sites, as well as tours scheduled for new prospective parents shopping for their children's school. With the consolidation of a school site, more custodial positions will be necessary. Please give some time and thought as to how to help this department. And we've also completed our negotiations for this year. I want to thank the negotiating team, CSEA, and the district. We did some great work together and put a package together that benefits everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item 11 and comments from the superintendent.
This is Michelle Lucci Garcia, Superintendent Designee. I wanted to take a moment to just talk about the exciting work we're doing. Janine Hughes, Catherine Anderson, and I are resuming our LCAP discussions with students, taking to them the feedback and that the draft plan and letting them kind of sit with it and ask questions and see the benefit of their discussions with us initially. There's something more exciting than meeting with student groups at our schools. The kids are so excited to engage with us. And then I had the opportunity to stop by Auburnell's talent show last night and saw some great talent going on. And then the big day of giving, I went to that and it was a huge success. I got to watch the band performing and the dance team as well. And then Heather and I had the opportunity to attend the Meddlers Forum with President Holt.
Thank you. And actually, this is Greg Holt. Before I make my comment, I'm just gonna check one thing. Got to clarify something. I didn't want to let any cats out of the bag. So I just want to talk again, yesterday, the superintendent designee, the CBO, and I had the opportunity to address meddlers, which is a group hosted by the Auburn Chamber. So there's 4 members of the city council, Supervisor Cindy Gustafson, got to spend about 15 minutes in Q&A with them. So that was a great opportunity to engage with members of the community, and I hope we can continue to do that. And then I want to touch on two resignations. That's Janine Hughes and Dr. Lori Basalna-Wright. So Janine, your role certainly can be difficult and emotionally challenging. And in just the 5 months I've been here, I've been really fortunate to see you there as the director, and I've been completely confident in those services for our district. So thank you for your service. And Principal Basalna-Wright, I don't think there could have been a worse time to come into a school as a principal than right in the middle of the first year of COVID. So you did great though. The Skyridge students and the whole community really got lucky with you. You definitely embody that Falcon spirit that you've been setting for your school. And you are the example of SOAR, say it, own it, act it, respect it, there for Skyridge. And you're gonna be a tough act to follow. So thank you for your service to the students, families, and the staff at the USD. And I don't know how we can get PCOE to not poach any more of our people. And opening up the comments from the rest of the board, starting with Michael.
Jason Wedge here. So I just want to comment real quick. I was able to jump in on the Zoom yesterday with the meddlers, and be quite honest, I didn't know what to expect, but I thought it was very well done. And probably the most exciting part is just to see the excitement from the other city partners wanting to continue to collaborate with Auburn Union School District. So I think that's going to be exciting to see in the future. And other than that, just want to comment. I made a slight joke earlier with one of our short timers over here that I think we can probably write this in the contract maybe, but she needs to train her replacement before she leaves. And so we'll be looking forward to that.
Sarah Brickler, as a volunteer with Auburn Education Foundation, I just wanted to thank everyone who made our Big Day of Giving event such a success. It was incredibly fun to go to an event that was a cross-district event and see so many families and staff and community members come out. And I really particularly appreciate all the parents who mobilized to bring your kids out so that we could enjoy these excellent performances of the Evie Kane Band and the Skyridge and Evie Kane dance teams. And in addition, the Skyridge Drama Club. And there are even more groups we could have included and would like to include whenever we can, especially when there's transportation available. But I wanted to thank those who donated to support Auburn Education Foundation. That money goes directly into educator grants that lead to things like the Buddy Bench. The Buddy Bench was part of a particular grant to each campus, but we also have an educator grant process where any staff member in the district can request funds for a particular need they've identified, and that often leads to great STEAM activities and social emotional learning and PE activities. So thank you for those who donated as part of the Big Day of Giving. I just wanted to recognize that there are 15 days of school left and that we're so close. And I'm just saying this as a volunteer, seeing the incredible effort that staff and volunteers and the whole team is making to make the end of the school year really special and fun and enriching for all of our students. It's also, last week and this week, we've been celebrating staff appreciation. I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge, just how grateful we are for, how incredibly hard our entire district community is working. Every once in a while, I will be in like I was in the culinary classroom at Alta Vista last week, just for, 8 to 3 or something. And it is exhausting. Like, I have such respect. I don't know how you all do this day in and day out. It's commendable. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. I wanted to piggyback off of President Holtz. So I won't have to pull the personnel report, but I also just wanted to acknowledge we have Gloria Lucas is retiring, and I want to acknowledge her incredible contributions to our district. And that selfishly, I'm sorry to see Ms. Gallo go as a first grade teacher, but I'm just very happy for her and want to congratulate her on a new chapter as a principal. And so my last comment that I wanted to make is that, I was approached to support some students with bus passes, and it was just such a reminder of what a gaping hole we have without having transportation for our students. And I hear about it from, students at every single campus and how much families are struggling with this. And so I I've had some community members approach me about like, how do we get kids to our after-school program at our church? And I'm just really hoping that we can continue to discuss transportation and how we can facilitate access to our families because it's so critical and such a hardship for so many of us. Thank you.
Hello. This is trustee Ross. And I definitely want to piggyback off Sarah and thanking all the staff and just, oh my gosh, our district is what it is because of you. And so thank you so much for showing up to work. We need you so desperately and we're so happy to have you. I just want to congratulate the drama club. We finished out our drama over at Skyridge. That was incredible. We had 2 different plays. Miss McDonald and Mr. Pack brought down the house. So really excited about that. Market Day at Alta Vista. Yo, I got so much gack and slime. But that was such an incredible moment. Also the fiesta over at Rock Creek. We had the amazing Dave come over and take pictures and he just captured it. Jason, I'm so sorry. Yes. Jason, I love you. Jason came over and took pictures and they're so phenomenal. If you want to see them, we have them up. They're on his website and you can download them for free. They're pretty incredible. And then last but not least, I do want to just piggyback off of Leadership Auburn. We're really excited to just kind of work with the district and see how we can help Evie Kane and Miss Mayberry for next year, get everything ready. May 21st, Sunday, we will have a benefit show at the Oddfellas right down the street. It's a daytime show. It's at 3:00. And then all the proceeds will go to benefit whatever we're doing here at the school. And that's Jim Kepfer and his band, his Evie Kane Jazz Band. And then I actually have an incredible youth record label here at Evie Kane called Gold Records. And our amazing artist from Evie Kane will be performing as well. So you'll get to see students in action and you'll also get to support Evie Kane, which is amazing. Other than that, it's 15 days, y'all. That's crazy.
All right. This is Greg Holt again. We're moving along to item 12, the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled?
Just one, Sarah Brickler, I would like to pull 12B, the account summary report.
And I just want to clarify one item, and that's, so I guess I have to pull it. So let's pull item 12A as well. Just want to clarify something. So this is Greg Holt. I move to approve the consent agenda with items A and B pulled.
Jason Wedge, I'll go ahead and second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? So, all right, so this is Greg Holt still. With item 12A on the warrant report, I just wanted to clarify that the fast track thing that's just how they send it now and it comes up as violation, even though that's just what happens when you drive through the fast track now, right? Okay, yep, just as long as we weren't paying for a ticket.
Sorry, Heather Leslie. Yes, they don't, if you're going through a toll area, they no longer have anyone working the booth. So they just take a photo and they email it to the registration address.
Yeah, I just wish it wouldn't say violation on it when I send it to you, but no,
Yeah.
I understand. That's just how they do it now.
Yes.
I saw that language as well. It was $12. I don't know if that was 2 $6 tolls or I'm not sure how that works exactly.
You know, yeah, $12, but I thought it's the.
Yeah.
We'll just clarify it for everybody's.
We're not erroneously charging violations to the district. No, that would just be a toll we would have to reimburse anyways.
Okay, thank you. So I move to approve item 12A.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. And Clerk Brickler, item 12B.
Yeah, Sarah Brickler. So my question, it seems that this account summary report, it appears to be a new report. I don't know that we've seen it before. And so I just wanted to request some additional context about it. and how we can utilize it as a tool as trustees. I mean, for example, one way that I was looking at it is that it gives you a percentage, like a snapshot in time of how much we've expended. And was thinking that it would be helpful if we knew like what would we expect to have expended by April? Are we kind of trying to make a comparison of, at X number of months into the school year, we would have expended 70% of our budget, received 70% of our revenues. Can you possibly give us some more information about why we have this new report and how we could be utilizing it?
Absolutely. So Heather Leslie, again. So this report is new to you guys. This was actually a recommendation as we went through the interview process with FICMAT, the Fiscal Management and Crisis Team. They had asked a couple of our employees during their interviews whether or not there was any approval of any of the current salaries or anything of that nature. And so we were like, no. So it was something that we found that some districts do, some districts don't. But in doing some research, this is the type of report that would be printed for some districts and then just put on the consent agenda, almost like the warrant report or things like that. So it's not as deep in context, I guess, is that. It just kind of, gives you an overview of where we're at and from our budget, how much is maybe expended, or even at the top, as far as revenue sources go, and like the first few pages gives you an idea of how much revenue we receive. Obviously, our like our state revenues, we don't get all those in at one time. So it'll kind of give you an idea of how much we've received to date throughout the fiscal year. So, and as far as how much we should be, I mean, we're kind of rounding out our fiscal year in a way. So I would figure we would be pretty close to topped out of what our budgeted amount is. But it isn't like a win or lose. It's just informational.
I mean, I remember managing budgets and just kind of getting a ballpark of, oh, we're halfway through the year. Sometimes one would have spent half of your budget by then, depending on the timing of things. I guess one thing that caught my eye was that I know we're in a position of needing to save money, and then some categories, our spending was relatively low, like perhaps 30% of what was budgeted, such as areas like books and supplies or capital outlay. And I just didn't know if perhaps this report kind of signals where there may be opportunities to save money.
I was going to let you finish. I just want to make sure this was still on. Heather Leslie again. So, I mean, yes, obviously those are things that we, when we look at the budget overall, we're not necessarily just looking at that. We also looked at what is encumbered. So sometimes we may have less of it. And as we start to go into budget creation, that's where we start to discuss with departments and with department heads and school sites as to, is this something you're going to utilize next year? Should we budget lower? So at the end, our ending fund balance ends up approximately the same because we try as we go through second interim, because we track those expenses, but it does give you an idea of areas that we may not budget as much next year.
Thank you for additional information. I'll move that we approve item 12B, the account summary report.
This is Greg Holt. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving to item 13A, acceptance of the 22-23 financial audit report.
This is Michelle Lucia Garcia. As it pertains to Ed Code, as listed here, the governing board must review and accept the prior year's financial audit at a public meeting. So today we have a representative from Crow to present that audit.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jen Aris with Crow LLP. We are the independent audit firm for Auburn Unified for June 30, 2022. So we're actually going to be looking back to last fiscal year and speaking to the financial results there and the results of the audit process. Crow is actually engaged to perform 4 separate audits for the district. So we audit the financial statements themselves, the internal controls over financial reporting. We then perform a federal compliance audit or uniform guidance audit because of the amount of dollars that are expended from federal grants. And then lastly, we perform what's referred to as a state compliance audit. So there are a number of state compliance areas the district is required to comply with, and we audit those as well. First, I'd like to speak to adjustments to the financial information that you would have received as part of your normal review of internally prepared documents. So through the audit process, as we are testing, we have the potential to identify adjustments, and adjustments are really categorized into two separate buckets, if you will. We have something called a corrected misstatement, which we'll speak to in a minute, and that's where there's actually an adjustment that's posted to the financials. We also have what's referred to as an uncorrected misstatement. And so that's where we've identified something, but it is not at a significant dollar amount that would require it be posted, but it is large enough that I'm required under the audit standards to speak to you about it here tonight. So we actually had 3 waived or uncorrected misstatements. One is actually fairly standard. It had to do with a new accounting pronouncement that was applicable for all governmental entities starting with June 30, 2022. And that has to do with accounting for leases. And so the way in which leased property is accounted for changed as it did for every other district, every other governmental entity. And management went through a process of identifying the leases. It was of a dollar amount that it kind of popped, if you will, but not significant enough to record. So it's something that we recommend that management continue to monitor. And if lease activity were to increase, that dollar amount grows and it needs to be recorded. The other 2 items, one had to do with student body accounting. And again, this is something that came to be a few years ago with GASB, a new GASB pronouncement that required the ASB activity be included in the financial statements of the district. And so just a minor difference in ASB amounts that were reported. The cash is all there, no issue with that, just book accounting, if you will. And then lastly, there was a GASB pronouncement, it's GASB 31. And for perspective, we're now on GASB 101. So it's kind of an old GASB, if you will, that really kind of came to significance in the last year because of the interest rate environment that we've been in and the market fluctuations that have occurred. And so again, nothing of concern, it would just be a book accounting item. But again, required to communicate with you given the significance there. I would actually like to next refer you to a page in the audit report, page 64. And this includes a summary of all of the posted adjustments. So the adjustments or the corrections that were made as a result of our audit testing. And so we make corrections to the general fund and the charter school fund. Within the general fund, there was almost a beginning balance entry adjustment, if you will, with the change in the accounting for ASB that was adopted previously. That audit adjustment had not been recorded last year, so we needed to re-record it this year or for 2022. There were also errors in the LCFF calculation due to some P2 corrections, as well as just calculation of the LCFF that impacted both the general fund and the charter fund. And so those were both adjusted. And then lastly, through our testing of searching for unrecorded liabilities, we found some expenses that had been recorded actually in the 2023 fiscal year, but were for 2022. So just basically changing the timing there. And that's one of the things that we look at specifically in our testing is the timing of revenues and expenditures to make sure that they're recorded within the proper periods. I'd like to next actually turn to page 77 of the audit report. This is a nice summary of the audit results. So as I mentioned, we had 4 separate opinions that we were required to report on because of the 4 audit requirements. And so this summary just walks through each of those. And so at the top, you see that our report on the financial statements is unmodified or a clean audit opinion, which is exactly what you would want to receive. It's really a result of posting those corrections that we were able to get to the point of issuing that clean opinion for you. We have issued a material weakness over financial reporting. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. And that relates to the internal controls over financial reporting. We had no findings in the performance of our procedures over federal compliance. So we tested the ESF program or COVID funds and had no findings as it related to our testing there. And then lastly, from a state compliance standpoint, we've issued a qualified opinion. And so we have some findings related to state compliance that we'll go through, and the accumulation of those findings resulted in a qualification of our opinion. So continuing then on to page 78, this is where we begin our summary of audit findings. The first finding is material weakness over internal controls for financial reporting. And really, anytime that you have an adjustment to the financial statements, it's almost always an automatic material weakness as well in the controls related to that. And so you can see here, we've bullet pointed the items that were identified that led to the identification of those errors, those adjustments that were recorded, and then result in the material weakness. Within findings, anytime that we find errors or compliance items, there are really three levels of findings that we can have. Material weakness is the most significant or severe. A deficiency would be the first level of finding, if you will. And then there's actually something else referred to as a significant deficiency. And the definition of a significant deficiency actually says anything that I, in my judgment, think that you and your role as those charged with governance should be aware of. And so sometimes when we have compliance findings, they're classified as deficiencies. Other times they're classified as material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And in my role as the auditor, I'm required to not only look at the individual finding itself, but also the accumulation of the findings. And so if you have a number of deficiencies, they collectively can kind of add up, if you will, to a material weakness. So on page 80, we're just confirming that we had no findings related to federal compliance. And then beginning on page 81, we have classified each of the state compliance findings as a material weakness because of the number of findings that we have in conjunction with each other. So I'm just going to briefly go through these, and certainly if you have any questions, I can address them. The first relates to attendance. So there were clerical errors in accounting for attendance that both resulted in P2 and P annual adjustments, as well as one student at E.V. Kane Middle School that was inappropriately marked as present when they were absent for the day. On page 82, there's a finding related to independent study. And so there was the district was unable to provide the independent study ratio calculation. And then at two of the sites, there were issues in the supporting documentation for the independent study contracts. And so the requirements are very prescribed within the audit guide, and we had these findings related to those specific sites and students. On page 84, we had a finding related to immunizations. And so there are immunization requirements, specific grade levels, including certain immunizations that require 2 shots, and attendance cannot be claimed for students until both shots have been achieved. And so again, there were findings for attendance related to students that were not fully vaccinated. On page 85, we've described the finding within CalPADS. And so this was a supporting documentation error related to CalPADS, and the student identified the CalPADS area or unduplicated is an area where we are actually required to extrapolate our error. And so with one student found within our sample size, we had to extrapolate that over the entire population. And that's how you have the summary of the finding here. Continuing on to page 87, we had a finding related to after and before school education and safety program. And so really this had to do with call it categories of expenses. And so this is an area where there's some outsourced support for the program. There are very specific requirements for the amount of matching and expenditure. And so there was a bit of a discrepancy in the allowable percentages that ended up for those related expenditures. And so indirect costs were overstated by just over $5,000. And there were facility charges in excess of over $16,000. So again, kind of categorization, if you will, but again, very prescribed areas that needed to be followed, and this was out of compliance. And then I believe lastly here on page 88 is the finding related to classroom teacher salaries. And so for a district, for this district, there's a 60% requirement. And there was a deficiency of just under 55% related to the calculation. This is a finding that just, to be honest, is something that we've seen in a lot of districts in the last few years, particularly related to the one-time funding, right, the COVID funding. And so many are able to cure this through working with the county office and certain classifications that can be made. So going forward, that would be our recommendation, to work with the county and make sure that categorization is appropriate, particularly as you're continuing to spend down your one-time funds. And then lastly, on page 89, we have a summary of the prior year findings and the status of those findings for the current year. So these were findings that were identified in 2021 and then looking to 2022. The cash reconciliation of the ASB funds had been corrected, and so there was no finding related to specifically to that, but there were additional items related to ASB. So we have that reference there. The ratio of admin employees to teachers had been a finding in the prior year, and that had been corrected. And then classroom teacher salaries was something, as I mentioned with the COVID funds, that's something that we've seen many years in a row, past 2 or 3 years with districts. And so that had been a finding in the prior year as well. So I know I went through a lot of audit information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sarah Brickler, you just started to answer one of them. I mean, one of my questions was, how can the district become compliant with the teacher salary requirement? I didn't really, in some cases, there were steps that were identified in the report about how any material weakness or deficiency would be remedied. And I didn't see that. So you just said that you work with your county office of education and recategorize some of the staff.
Yeah, so this is an area that there isn't really a control, if you will, that you can put into place. It's very prescribed. And so our recommendation would be to kind of project, right, and start doing that calculation early before the close of the books. The other thing would be to work with the county office because, again, you're not alone in having this finding. A lot of it has to do with those one-time funds. And so if you there are some ways that things can be categorized within the calculation. It's a very prescribed formula, if you will, to get to this. And so the county offices have been successful in assisting in that.
Okay. Yeah. But you were also saying that part of it is just planning, right? To keep kind of monitoring what that ratio is as the year goes on so that I don't know where we stand currently. We've discussed it before, but I don't know where we are for 22, 23, for example. We don't want to keep having a repeat finding.
Agreed. Yeah. And so kind of doing that projection and reaching out to the county early, if you're getting close, would definitely be a help in that regard. You don't want to close the books, right? And finish the form and finish the calculation and then realize that you're out of compliance. Best to address earlier. Yeah.
What is the implication for being out of compliance?
For each of the state compliance areas, it varies. And so for those where there is a noted fiscal impact, there is potential for loss of funds. For some of them, there's the opportunity to file for a waiver. And so to have that corrected, this is an area where a waiver is allowable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Administration recommends the acceptance of the report.
Oh, are we done with questions? I had another question, which was that, and I figured others might, but I saw the overstatement of the LCFF, and that was, to me, it seemed significant. The general fund balance was overstated by 1.2 million, and the charter schools fund balance was overstated by $117,000. And I guess I'm just trying to figure out how we I guess how we integrate, maybe it's more of a question for administration, really, how we integrate this into our financial planning, because we're already at a point where we're having to make significant cuts in order to stop our pattern of deficit spending. And am I understanding this correctly, that this is money that we thought we had that we actually do not have? So we have a additional deficit in these amounts?
I'll defer to administration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And actually, if you, as you said, there were some responses in there that listed out steps and information. So if you refer to page 79, I think that has to do with those findings specifically in the responses to them that were reviewed by the County Office of Education as well prior to submission to CRO. Really, when we start looking at the LCFF calculations, again, that had to do with some of the concerns with the attendance calculation and the PADC system. So those are corrections that we would need to make. So we've already received kind of a notification from the state of California on that. And so they're allowing us to make those corrections when we do annual reporting. So we'll be entering those. But yeah, you are correct. So those would have been funds that we would have anticipated that we have already certified that we would have gotten. So that's why you'll see the adjustment to reduce the funds for that. So I actually don't think the reduction was a full 1.2. I think it's actually 523,000 approximately.
I
That was
did get that
reduction.
number from another part of the report. I can find it. I didn't make it up. I do see that the other on 87 is.
Cumulatively, it might be pretty close to that when you get to some of the.
So
adjustments.
it's actually what I was referring to is on page 78. It says the fiscal impact is an overstatement of general fund balance of 1.2 million and charter school 117,000.
Right.
I think that you're looking cumulatively about the impact of the timing of the expenditures. And so I think that's where the 1.2 comes in. And so on page 64, there's the 620,000 related to the LCFF adjustment and the 640,000 for the expenditures that had not properly been accrued. And
Oh, the
so
timing issue.
the timing
Okay.
issue related to the expenditures, correct? Yes. Sorry for the confusion there. These are very, we speak in auditese, right? And I apologize. I know sometimes it can be confusing to follow.
But so still, if I'm understanding correctly, between LCFF calculations being inaccurate and the timing of when expenses were recorded that were in the wrong fiscal year, basically our fund balance, we have 1.2 million less than we anticipated.
Correct. And the only caveat that I might clarify is the 640,000 in the expenditures had been recorded as an expense in fiscal year 22-23. So we're just moving that forward or backward, if you will, into fiscal year 22.
Okay.
So as you were looking at interim information, you had already seen that $640,000 in expense come out of your fund balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
And are there additional questions? Yeah, I think the only other things I have would be for the administration. It's just, I hope that we can get ahead of some of these issues going for the next year. All right.
To your point, I wonder if it would make sense to have an understanding of, so we're looking at 21, 22 here. Are any of these still relevant to us in 22, 23?
Thank you. I mean, it's always possible, especially as we look at some of the salary ratios and how we can work with the county office on that. Many of these findings, we've already taken steps, as may have been outlined, to remedy. Obviously, as we start looking at things such as attendance and immunization records and things like that, that's going to be the more difficult part to nail down. Anything we already have, because this was a year, as we talked about, the backup for like independent study. As far as the independent study contracts, we no longer have that program. So it kind of negates itself naturally. With the unduplicated count, the backup that has to go along with that. That was when we were utilizing the system of, we didn't really have any forms that we could really turn back in or force. We were sending out the surveys and then having to, kind of pull income information from that a lot of times. Or even with our English learners, it was a little bit of a dicey. Now we have already at the beginning of this year, that was part of our data confirmation. So, there are quite a few things that go along with that. But again, this would be part of, an improvement plan that we'll be looking at holistically after we get our FCMAT report.
I just want to thank Crow too. I know this is our final audit report from you, and I've always appreciated the insight from your auditors in the last several years. So thank you for helping us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the meeting here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, administration recommends approval of the audit.
I move that we approve the audit report, the audit findings.
And that was Sarah Brickler, Clerk Brickler. This is Greg Holt. I second the motion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? There are none. The motion carries. Okay, moving to item 13B, approval of tentative agreement with CSEA, AB 1200 disclosure form and salary schedule.
This is Michelle Lucci Garcia. Per the Me Too clause with CSEA, a matching offer that was negotiated and approved, the Auburn Union Teachers Association was proposed to CSEA. CSEA has elected to utilize the monetary value of a 10% increase to the health and welfare cap onto the salary schedule in lieu of a cap increase. Also, in addition to that, removal of professional growth restrictions to move into step F has been agreed upon, and I'm excited to say that there has been an additional professional development day being added to the work year calendar for classified employees beginning in 23-24. Administration recommends the approval of the tentative agreement with CSEA.
I have one clarifying question, which is just that I would almost expect to see the percentage for each of the three groups to be exactly the same. So CSEA was 4.36%. They're all the three groups are all in the 4% range, but there's a slight variation. It would be helpful to understand why there is some variance.
Thank you. Heather Leslie. Yes, so as we had kind of discussed previously on that, a lot of it, I think at this point has to do with the differences in the health and welfare benefit caps, specifically this year. I mean, we're always going to see a little bit of a turn depending on which units bargain for what types of items in addition to salary. But as we look at this, we really had to use our auditor's word, extrapolate. As we looked at health and welfare benefit caps, this really had to do with how many of that particular unit are taking benefits and what type of benefits. So then how much we pay towards that particular cap. So really, as we looked at the cost of the 10% increase in cap for AUTA originally, that was really based on that monetary value on whom out of that bargaining unit is taking the benefits and what type of benefits. Obviously, the cap for employee only is going to be much less than someone who's taking benefits for their entire family. That's just how our setup is. With CSEA, particularly, we had to look at the monetary value of what we would anticipate had we increased those caps and then use that dollar amount to translate into somewhat of a percentage increase. So that's why you have the 4.36 as opposed to something else. A lot of our CSEA staff choose not to elect benefits, or a lot of them are employee only. And also it makes a difference in how much we pay towards their cap. So if they're not a full FTE, then it's a less percentage on that. As we move into like confidential management or non-represented groups, we seem to have out of that group much more staff that are taking advantage of that for the size of group that they are.
I guess all I'm saying is it would have been, in terms of me like reconciling the numbers in my brain, I would have loved seeing that they were all like exactly the same. Like, I mean, just in terms of assuring that there was, parity across the three groups. It's very close though.
I also just want to thank CSEA for being creative and flexible. This is a different sort of agreement than we've seen with them before. And I just think it goes a long way in terms of trying to retain some folks that are in hard to fill positions and to try to recruit and be more competitive. So I just thank you for this is a really different sort of agreement than I've seen it before. So it's promising. Thank you.
Are there any additional clarifying questions? Good. This is Greg Holt. I move that we approve the tentative agreement with CSEA.
Sarah Brickler, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are none. The motion carries. Moving to item 13C, approval of salary increases for non-represented employees commensurate with represented personnel and AB 1200 disclosures.
This is Michelle Lucci Garcia. And going back to the Me Too language, this agreement mirrors the original agreement with AUTA for a 4% increase to the salary schedule and a 10% increase in the health and welfare benefit caps. Administration recommends approval.
I have a clarifying question, which is, could you, for those who may have reviewed the draft that was posted on Friday, there's been a revision as of yesterday afternoon. Could you possibly walk us through those changes? What is different between the two documents?
Heather Leslie, thank you, yes. I would love to walk you through a blow by blow on that, but it was really a lot of back and forth in dealing with formulations within the Excel document with the County Office of Education. So both the AB 1200 forms were reviewed by our assigned fiscal expert and then forwarded to the County Office of Education for a final kind of sign off. And so both our accountant, Jeremy McReynolds, and myself had to work kind of like right up to the last minute with the County Office of Education to hit some of these things. But more specifically, as we looked at how the calculations were done, mostly with this, I don't even have a good way to describe it on the first page in section A to the side, the percentage, because that really is, and it's hard for my fiscal brain to make it work, is that's what the percentage is of the total percentage of the total 1% instead of a percentage overall. So it's like a completely different set of numbers. And there was some
Would you repeat
formulation
that again,
issues.
please?
So it's the percentage breakdown of the 1% calculation instead of an overall percentage. So it's a little bit strange how that works for us. And that's how it was described to us. So as we worked through some of these things, we found that there was a larger, as you had mentioned, I was working off the calculations that's in the form, and there was some changes to the formulations of what the total monetary increase per year would be for the health and welfare benefit cap, which brought down the total cost. In addition, as we moved out, we included in other revisions.
Excuse me, Heather, if you just speak a little bit more slowly, please.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
stop a little note again.
They're flagging in for the note. So in some of the other information that's the multi-year form, and then also in the restricted and unrestricted pages, there's other revisions as necessary. So what we did was include this cost of the CSEA agreements as well. So we could get a clearer picture of what the total would be. And you'll see that both on this one and the one that was just approved for CSEA. In addition, as such with that, in the final page is the information for the restricted reserve that we have to keep. And so that changed to those numbers as well. So you'll see the increases that we had to make or decreases that we had to make because of that. I think that's a basic summary.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was glaring to me was that when it was presented to us in March and then again in May, it was written as a nearly 12% increase for management rather than what we were seeing for the other groups of 4% and some change. So that was just my concern, was that there was a major, that this was presented to us inaccurately twice, and that there was something about it that looked really unreasonable and unfair, that we were giving so much more to one group as opposed to another.
And again, that's in the calculations. So, oh, sorry, Heather Leslie again, in the calculations. So again, management confidential, unrepresented. So the entirety of everybody else, that's the catch basin besides CSEA or AUTA. It, just so everybody's clear, it wasn't that it was ever proposed that they would get a 12% increase as opposed to a 4%. It was still the 4%. It's just the way the formulas came with a calculation for that additional health and welfare cap.
I guess I'm just pointing out how significant it was, a difference between 155,000 for health and welfare benefits, which now has been corrected to 18,000.
Which they should get as teachers, and hopefully our legislation, and we will lobby and get our teachers and our staff paid more.
So I think this is the one too, that oh, sorry, this is Greg Holt again. Looking at item 13C, I generally support it. However, I want to make sure we clarify in language that this does not apply to the superintendent's contract.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. This would not apply to the superintendent's contract, as that one is not listed on any of the salary schedules. So this would be, again, any confidential employees, anyone's unrepresented, any administration such as our principals, our occupational therapists, psychologists, licensed professionals.
Great, thank you. Are there additional questions?
I'll move that we approve the AB 1200 for management with the exception of the superintendent.
This is Greg Holt. I will second that motion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? And the motion carries. Moving to item 13D. And I got to tear it to read it. The declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 23-24 school year.
There's an amended version attached to the agenda, but also has been added to your folder as well. And that's going to show one more position added. So this declaration is to ensure all staff hired without proper authorization are covered while becoming authorized. So it's a declaration that we put on the board agenda every year to ensure that we are covered for any staff that we may hire that are still becoming properly authorized. Administration recommends approval of the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
And are there any clarifying questions?
Oh, so were you going to ask a question? This is Trustee Ross. And does this go hand in hand with the new idea of possibly single subject credentials at our middle school rather than multi-subject credentials?
This declaration of need is something that we do each year.
Gotcha.
It could be for multiple subject or single subject.
Okay.
Are there any additional clarifying questions? All right, this is Greg Holt. I move that we approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
This is Trustee Dowd. I second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed? None. Seeing none, the motion carries. And moving to item 13E, resolution 22-23-24, final resolution to reduce or eliminate classified school staff.
The board approved the reduction of services for our classified staff in March. We are moving forward with those approved reductions. Administration recommends the approval of resolution 22-23-24 to reduce or eliminate classified school service staff.
Just a quick clarifying question. Is there a parallel to this for certificated staff as well? Because this is kind of like a two-step process, right? Where you have to give the notification by March 15th by law, but then we're following up before May 15th. Is there a parallel for certificated?
There is not at this time, through attrition of staff for a variety of reasons. We do not have a final reduction of services for certificated staff at this time.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, this is Greg Holt. I move that we approve resolution. Oh, pardon me. This is a resolution, so that'd be a roll call vote.
But you still have to move to approve it, correct?
Yes. So it's Greg Holt. I move that we approve resolution 22-23-24.
Sarah Brickler, I will second the motion. And then I will, as clerk, continue speaking to, I'll start with President Holt,
Aye.
Vice President Wedge,
Aye.
Trustee Dowd,
Aye.
Clerk Brickler, aye, and Trustee Ross.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Okay, moving to item 14A. Comments from the trustees related to monthly school site reports. And are there any comments?
I mean, these reports are so well received. I really appreciate all the time that staff put into them. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. I saw that I missed Skyridge's first to third grade play that Trustee Ross was part of. I really appreciate how I think I mentioned last month how they are partnering with the Master Gardeners, and they're basically creating a pilot program for how school gardens can function. But I've been really impressed looking at the photos of how even throughout like all of the inclement weather, our garden program kind of halted, but they continued to make it happen. And at Evie Kane, I was appreciating Principal Mayberry's report about how she's having to rebuild her MTSS infrastructure with so many new staff, how she's building time into the schedule next year for social emotional learning. That she was giving a shout out for May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And how much I enjoyed the open house event. It was just incredibly well attended, great community partnerships, felt really positive, and was just a really nice way to kind of welcome people to the campus. Rock Creek, I noticed that they completed 128 LPAC assessments for English learners, and just how much work that must be. Saw all the exciting movement on the warrant report with supports for their media club and some of the materials they were able to purchase. All the community partners that attended the fiesta and that were supportive of the fiesta, and how sad I was that I was too sick to go. And wanted to thank Principal Morris I saw that she was doing assist training, which is something I used to be involved with when I worked in suicide prevention, and just appreciate that she was valuing that framework. And Auburn Elementary, I loved hearing about your farmers market and your new sound system for all of your visual and performing arts and all of the great stage that you have on your campus, and loved hearing about your before school art program. I mean, I'm just cherry picking a few things. There's all the other stuff that's happening too. You're doing LPAC, or sorry, not LPAC, but you're doing CASP testing for certain grade levels. You're which I know I've been observing as a parent is, like a several week long process, or they're just actual testing, not the preparation for the test. And just how these are just some of the fun things I noticed on top of like the daily grind of operating schools and keeping students safe and creating productive learning environments. So thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Clerk Brickler. Absolutely. Okay. Moving to item 15A. Board direction requests, update on requests.
At the last meeting, there were a couple of requests regarding governance, and I'm just excited to, as you probably have seen the calendar invite, to remind the board that I have confirmed that we will have a governance workshop on June 10th to kind of go over some of those, well, to finish the handbook and to kind of create those norms and finish that work.
I hope I didn't miss my opportunity. This is Trustee Ross for a board request. We had mentioned having a student body board representative or something to that degree. And I would love to look into that so we can be ready and fresh next year to bring on some students either to our board or have an own separate student advisory board, whatever that looks like. I'd really like to start looking into that now so we can be ready in August.
You certainly hadn't missed your shot yet. That's coming up next. She was just providing the update.
Oh, hey, there you go.
No worries. Were there?
And that actually was an old request. I think that this is something that
Oh.
Trustee Ross brought up maybe like even a year or more ago.
Since we came back from our last CSBA meeting was really hefty. So December, I think we made this request in December. There was a lot going on. And I do have to say that I appreciate you bringing students' input into everything that you're doing, especially the activities. So just want to see more of that.
All right. Are there any other questions on updates on requests? And then are there new requests this month?
I have a new request, and this is from hearing feedback from families that are interested in enrolling students in transitional kindergarten. We all know that TK, before too long, all 4-year-olds will be eligible to enroll. And I'm hearing from some families that they're so close to the cutoff, but they're just outside of it. And I like the idea of kind of thinking about the district as a business. And these are people who may already have older students enrolled. And if we were able to accommodate a TK student a little bit out of the range, knowing that like in the next year, they'll be eligible. I think it's kind of a wise decision just to accommodate those families when we can. And I understand there may be a need for assessment, right? To understand the appropriateness of whether or not a student is ready for TK if they're outside of that eligibility range.
So would the board like more information about this to the next meeting? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I'm
If it's
understanding.
possible.
I'm understanding that families are being turned away from enrolling TK students because they're just outside of the window of eligibility. And I would, perhaps if there were an assessment, or I'm not sure what the process would look like, but I would like consideration of enrolling those students because all 4-year-olds are going to be eligible. When is the final implementation year? Is it 23, 24? Or is it 20? It might be 24, 25, but we're so close to bringing all 4-year-olds in. Other districts around us are enrolling essentially all TK students now.
So this is Greg Holt. Just want to try to clarify the request though for the district. And would that be looking at assessments to bring in kids who just barely missed the cutoff date for the 23-24 school year? Or are you looking at what that would look like in the 24-25 school year, assuming that isn't all 4-year-olds?
I'm wanting us, let's see. I don't know how this policy is being applied, if this is at one site, if it's at all sites. I'm hoping that we'll broaden our eligibility, knowing that, 1 or 2 years from now, they'll all be eligible anyway. I'm trying to understand why some families would be turned away.
Right, so I guess an update then on, or a report on what that
Thank
looks
you for
like.
trying to put my request into words. Let's see.
Sorry, yeah, just trying to help make it a request.
Just want to make sure,
That they can execute for us.
Could you please update us on TK enrollment policies and whether we can
whether there's an option to, or a possibility that we could provide an assessment for kids just outside the window to
Right.
possibly get in, or other waivers and what that looks like.
Thank you.
Are there any additional new requests?
This is trustee Ross. Next year, can we make sure that our open house meeting are not all on the same night so we can check them all out? Maybe 2 nights or something like that. So just a request for next year to think about maybe putting them on different days so we can attend them.
Okay, and is that, would all the board like, to- okay. For next year. Okay, thank you.
And are there any more questions from the board? Or requests? Okay, and do you have any other clarifying questions for us on those requests?
No, I think I took great notes this time.
Great. And we can always go to YouTube and watch the video.
We could do that.
So, all right, with that, moving to item 16, and it is 7:43, and we are going to recess and return to closed session. All right, great, thank you. So it is 7:56 and we're returning from closed session. No action was taken. And this meeting is adjourned at 7:57. Trying to get to the